Joining us right now is our Democrat of the day. We had him on before, but we're changing districts this time around. John Huot is kind enough to join us. I believe, John, the last time you and I talked, you were 57B. I think you're this time around 56B. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Hey, thanks for coming on back. Welcome back to the show.
I'm excited to be here. It was such a good time last time. I wanted to return. Thank you for having me.
My absolute pleasure. Now, first of all, let's, as I discussed with all the Democrats of the day, let's talk a little bit about 56B. How did things change in the district when they redistricted you?
Pretty much it's the same people. But I lost the Minnesota Zoo, which was disappointing, but they got a great rep now. When we prevail here in the election, Robert Bierman will represent the Minnesota Zoo. I took on a little bit of Egan now, which we didn't have before in the district, and I lost Coates also. So it's more Rosemount, a good mile into Apple Valley, and then a good mile into Egan. So it changed a wee bit, but I think it might help me a little bit, actually.
Well, and once again, I was talking to someone about, Shakopee yesterday. It's the consolidation of these suburban cities that now they're not split among 3 or 4 different districts. As you talk about with Rosemont, now you're all getting pretty much congealed into one district there, and it's because of that population growth and good growth. I spent a lot of time this summer with soccer over in your district. It is the kind of growth that you love to see out there. It really is a cute part of town.
Oh, no, Rosemont, we moved here because of the schools, but we stay because of the people, right? And it's a vibrant town, lots of young families, and we're not talking families from Minnesota. We have a melting pot of families out here. And you're right; those soccer fields are plump full. They're even full tonight. We got a big soccer game at the high school tonight. So, yeah, you hit it right on the head there.
For everyone out there, they might not remember you last time. Why don't you give them a little bit of a background? Who exactly is John Huot?
Well, that's a great segue here because my opponent, actually, I'm going to answer with his question. John Huot is John Huot. I am what you see is what you get. Because of my background, 30 years in EMS, I'm used to telling it like it is and getting going and getting the job done. And I think I pretty much have demonstrated that that's what I carried with me to the legislature. And that's the way I have been in my career. I have done it in volunteer work. That really we just have to get the job done. And I think that's who John Huot really is. But I do it with empathy and compassion. You can't be in the back of an ambulance, somebody was having a crisis, and not have empathy and compassion with them. And I look at that in the Minnesota House also as that, even though I have colleagues across the aisle that are Republican, I have to seek out their empathy and their compassion, and the same for me for them. And that's how we get work done. And I believe I am getting, it doesn't look that way, but I believe we are getting some work done at the Minnesota House.
Oh, I think you are. I mean, you're running into the Minnesota Senate, which is kind of a dumpster fire. But, I mean, the Minnesota House seems to be working just fine. I know a lot of the people over there. They're good. They're good folk. I will say this. I think that's the understanding. I mean, that's what politics is supposed to be. You're supposed to work with each other. And this is the trouble you have with the modern Republican. Not all Republicans, but a lot of them are this my way or the highway. I will shut down the state government unless the Democrats do everything I want, and that's my negotiation tactic. And that is not what leadership is, and that's not what's good for Minnesota either.
No, you hit it right on the head. When I'm knocking doors, I just got done. I did 80 doors today, and it's hot. It's really hot, so go take a swim. But the bottom line is that on those doors today, yesterday, the day before, they are truly giving me a direction, even in the newer part of my district. John, you got to get the work done. You got to work together. I'm sick of the rhetoric. I'm sick of the polarity. Do what you have to do to work with the Republicans. And they're right. Even though I'm elected as a Democrat, I still represent a lot of Republicans, and they want to see work get done too. So I think that you're exactly right. That's what Minnesota expects us to do. I think that currently, and what we have in the House and what we have in the governor, I think we've been able to show that we do that, even though you hear differently. I can testify that I'm basically that's where we went, and that's where I think we're going to continue to go.
Now, that being said, you still are a proud DFLer, and you've got a lot of strong DFL issues. And I'll start with the one that a lot of the DFLs are talking about. Of course, this is the overturning of Roe v. Wade. This is an issue here. Women's rights are being taken away from them after 50 years. You are very much the pro-choice candidate here, and frankly, and I have no problem saying this, considering that pretty much every Republican in this race up until June was, I'm completely against anyone having the right to choose their own health care over their own bodies. Now all of a sudden them saying, oh, I'm not really that person. You can't trust them. The DFL has been the party of pro-choice, and it's been that way for 50 years.
And you're exactly right about that. And I've seen the results of a bad world where you have people that don't feel they have access to reproductive services or abortion. I've worked in emergency rooms. I've worked on the back of an ambulance when people feel their only choice is to do self-induced or to try different things they saw on YouTube. That's not the world we need to live in today. And that's not the world I want to. I need to fight to make sure that doesn't happen here in Minnesota. And so when we hear this rhetoric from the other side of the aisle, by God, I just tell my colleagues on that other side, face up to what you believed in forever. I mean,
yeah.
This is really so important to us here. The only person that has a right to make that decision is that woman. Plain, simple, straightforward, and that's who has to do it. I served on the health committee as the vice chair. I mean, they keep this rhetoric that continues down the line of saying, oh, no, Minnesota's going to stay the same. We're going to keep things the same. You can be witness to this. Look at the bills that some of them tried to pass last year. Look at the bills they sent to our committee. It's unbelievable how they wanted to erode at our constitutional rights here in Minnesota. So I totally disagree with my colleagues on the other side of the aisle on this issue that, things aren't going to change. I think there's a directive to change it, and I do feel that we are the party that are very clear on a woman's right to reproductive rights and a woman's right to choose and abortion. And, and this isn't just the telegraph that the court sent us is scary because it's just not going to stop here. We're talking reproductive rights, and that's terrible. So you hit a button here with me, buddy.
No, by all means, and you're exactly right. There's already implications that, and Justice Thomas said, bring up contraception, bring up gay marriage. These are things that want to be out there, and you don't have to go that far to see what the real Republican agenda is. Just go out into rural Minnesota where the Republicans out there are not trying to win over metro area hearts or Duluth area hearts or Rochester area hearts. They're out there basically saying, yep, I'm going to do everything I can do to undermine the right of choice here in the state of Minnesota. They're saying that right now. So as all these suburban Republicans are trying to become born again, choice people, the reality is their own party is painting a very different picture out in rural Minnesota. And frankly, that's where a lot of the Republicans get their marching orders from, those extremist right Republicans out in the rural parts of the state.
Yeah, and it makes whiplash is the word for it. But I just can't believe that that's where they're going with this. And, own it. If they're so strong on this, own it. And I think their voters want them to own it too. That's the one thing. I mean, I sit down with a lot of Republican people, and maybe this might be the only thing that separates us. And I'm a Catholic, so I get those questions a lot. But the bottom line is that I think there's a lot of people disappointed with some of our Republicans right now because they're not owning this. So I know where I stand. I know where I will stand, and I will always support a woman's right to choose.
Let's talk a little bit about healthcare as a whole here, because obviously that's another issue for you. That's, it's a no-brainer. I mean, we just had 2 years of saying we need to have affordable healthcare for all, and that's just a given.
It is, and I just got back from D.C. last week. I had to take a week off from the campaign here to go out and do legislative work, and I was with the Medicaid Council, and I'm really concerned at where we're going. It scares me. When I was still on the ambulance and the people waited for that last minute to call us in and we're going there, and, this could have been prevented if they would have had a doctor's office visit or, many things like that. Or when I worked in the ER, I saw this all the time. And you asked, why did you wait so long? And the question was, I have a $2,000 deductible. I have no insurance. by God, this is America. We have multiple safety nets. We should be able to access those nets for everybody. This is crazy why we're still talking this today. And, you know, the Affordable Care Act brought us a long way, but we still have a long way to go. And I'm very concerned. I mean, the cuts to Medicaid that are being proposed, the cuts to Medicare, I mean, we have to make sure we're doing something because, you know, our seniors are deciding between their medication and their rent. They're deciding, you know, they're making decisions that are just heartfelt here. And we still have our most vulnerable people are still suffering because they can't get the care they need. So you'll see, I believe I'll probably return to the Health Committee. You will see us keep attacking this because, you know, if the country can't do better, we already have proven that Minnesota can do better. And we're going to continue down that pathway.
John Huot is joining us right now. He's a Democrat. 56B is the district on the south east side of town. You know, it's interesting. There are sometimes you consider yourself, is there a certain trend of politicians from a specific party, from a specific part of the metro area? And I will make an argument that the pro-union side of the Southeast Metropolitan Metro Democrats, the DFLers down there, is probably one of the strongest outside of Minneapolis core itself. I'm looking at your endorsements. The pipe trades, the carpenters, the firefighters are out in front of you. The Service Employees International, Minnesota Education Minnesota is there. The Teamsters are out there supporting you. The International Union Operating Engineers are out there. You have definitely got the union side. The National Brotherhood of Electricians, let's throw them in there. Their local union 110. The Minnesota Nurses Association, who are just angels. The nurses are fantastic. You have a pretty spectacular amount of endorsements from the union side, my friend.
You know, and I'm proud of that. I came from the Minnesota Nurses Association, actually. It was kind of a quirk that they tried for a while to put emergency medical technicians in there, but it was interesting, and I have a union background, but that's not why. You know why I get endorsed by those unions? Because I work with them very closely. I believe, and they all believe the same thing, that if I give a hard day's work, I get an honor dollar and I get benefits, and my livelihood shouldn't affect that. And so I work with them, and if you didn't notice, I also was endorsed by the Dakota County Chamber.
Yes.
And here again, we're looking at a situation that, you know, I know that the employers have their own challenges, but we're talking places like Flint Hills where every year we come back to that. There's 2,300 union jobs out there, and they are good-paying jobs. And their viability, we got to keep it going. I know, you know, I mean, this is one of those things where Flint Hills, we have that conflict, but, you know, the truth is that they've really come a long way from their problems that they had in the 70s and 80s, and they're working on cleaner burning fuels, and they're working on, in fact, Flint Hills is putting in a humongous solar garden.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's, you know, things like that you can get together with those companies that always have been at and work with unions and work with the bigger companies and find great results. And I'm proud to say that I was a part of that, and I'm always supportive of the unions, and especially, our nurses. I mean, I'm not saying this because my wife's a nurse, but our nurses went through hell this year.
Yes, they did. Last 2 years. Last 2 years.
Yeah, the last 2 years, and I got to tell you, my heart goes out for them. When I knock on their doors, I just listen, and, you know, and here's what I always say, because I worked in a hospital, and it was always great when the hospital CEOs or whatever would come around on Christmas time at about midnight and deliver us cookies. But they don't understand that those nurses and the people that worked in that ER, it's not about the cookies. It's about they're not going to be there in the morning when their kids open those gifts. They're going to miss a number of birthday parties because they said yes to this profession. They're going to miss a wedding of a family member. They're going to miss some big days because they're holding the hand of the people that need care the most, and they're there for them. They give up a lot. Mm-hmm. And it's time that maybe we look at that profession differently. And I understand why so many of them are leaving it. My wife has come home in tears many times this last year. She's a home care nurse, and so she's getting the discharges. And I cannot believe what she's going through. She is begging me to quit her job, but I got to be honest with you, she supports me because legislators don't make that much either. So, but the truth is that she's done. I mean, and I feel bad for her. So I'm living with it, and I see it in all my friends that are nurses too. But I really got to hand it out to them. They've really my heart goes out to them.
No, and they deserve every dime they're asking for. They really do, because they have just been through absolute hell the last few years. There was funny. I ran into a union guy who worked with energy, and he sort of said, "I don't care if it's coal or if it's solar. If I've got a job, it's a job. I'd much rather do the clean stuff." So the union guys on the energy side, as you brought that up, I remember that comment. He's like, "Yeah, the union is kind of pushing. Hey, we'll still work here on the solar power plant. We can do that." And so they're kind of pushing that kind of the green technologies as well. And then one last thing about unions, and I want to get your thoughts on this really quick. It does pain me sometimes to see that unions endorsing Republicans, because much like when you look at the Republicans and their real record on choice and abortion, the reality is that if the Republicans could make Minnesota a right-to-work state and kill all the unions in one fell swoop, they would do it. And even the so-called pro-union Republicans would gleefully scamper down the aisle to put their signature down on that bill to kill the unions. The reality is that the union workers, the DFL, are the ones that are out there fighting every single day to make sure that those union benefits are preserved and those union jobs are kept.
Amen. I can't believe, the thing is that I just hope that our union brothers and sisters, when they do decide to go and endorse somebody like that they really follow through on that to see where that's going to go, because I cannot tell you that it just frustrates me when I see we're fighting the benefits, we're fighting the pay, and we go back at this, and they're free market and all this other stuff. And one more thing I can say about the other side of the aisle there too is they keep yelling about the economy. I see the reports. Our sales tax revenue is high. Our incomes are way up there. And, yeah, we're going to have some stumbling times. But the truth is, I believe that we don't come in with the problems, but we're going to come in with the solutions. Minnesota is a humongous agriculture state. There's a lot of union workers on those docks up in Superior. There's a lot of union workers that can benefit from what we offer here in Minnesota. The Democrats truly have the plans that are going to go forward to keep us a good economic, solid state. So we see those sales tax come in. We see the other taxes coming in, because that's going to keep us from raising more taxes. And so I'm excited about a Democratic plan. We have a plan where all you do is hear the other guys, the economy, it's $400 more a month to live. But what's their fix? They never have a fix. So, Anyways, I'm sorry. I'm rattling here, and I know you got stuff.
No, you got to tell the truth. Is John, you're saying it. You're preaching at this point, and you're dead right. And thanks to the Minnesota House, which was under the Democratic control, as well as also Governor Walz, the reality is the economic downturn hasn't been as bad here as it's been in other places. And I have faith that the DFL will pull us out of this problem far better than the Republicans will, because they're going to just give millionaires and billionaires a tax cut. So that's not going to help most of us at all. John Huot is once again running for House 56B. John, I say this every time. Of course, you're up in your local district, and if you're in a relatively safe DFL seat, great. Help out your local DFLer by all means. But if you get a chance, zip on down to Rosemont, zip on down to 56B. It is a very lovely district. I can highly recommend this. Door knock, volunteer, donate, help John Huot win in 56B. John, what's the website they should go to if they want to help you out?
HewittForHouse.com, and if I'm going to get in trouble if I don't say this, remember, early voting starts, and we need to get out there and get those votes in.
Absolutely.
So, yes, go to my website, help any way you can, help your local Democrat, because we need to return to do the good work of you.
John Huot, once again, 56B, Democrat of the Day, Huot for House. I'll post everything a little bit later on. John, thank you very much. I appreciate the time, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Take care. We'll take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show right here on AM 950.